Now he's videoing so we can get it all on video, right?
And I guess you'd have to, if
Yeah.
you wanna hire your education.
Yeah, it depends on where you want to go to school, right? You make sacrifices for what you want. Okay. So anyway, let's transition into Aristotle. Because we got to ask the question. The other day we were talking about happiness and Aristotle, right? And we got to a point of, we were talking about two different types of good. One type of good is what? Intrinsic. That is, it's good for what it is, just for what it is. And the other type of good is instrumental. It's good for something. Okay? Masks are good for what? Some would say nothing. But let's pretend that we're not just virtue signaling. All right? Let's say they're good to protect us, right? From bad breath. Okay? So, and all that other stuff. Okay? So they're not good in themselves. They're just good for something. All right? What is happiness, folks? Now, if you were here the other day, we went through the whole shtick. Okay, so if you missed the other lecture, who watched the other lecture? None of you, because it's not up yet. Okay, but when you do watch the other lecture, you'll see the discussion. For those of you who were here, who was here the other day? I know you were, my camera guy's here, you were there.
Somewhat last Wednesday, right?
Monday.
This Monday? Oh, no.
Yeah, you could come on both days if you'd like.
Oh, I need to know.
Given the attendance, there's plenty of room in my opinion.
Oh.
Okay? So, well, we were talking about happiness. And I want to know, Aristotle's going to say, we all want to be happy, right? Who in here does not want to be happy? Good. Who in here wants to be happy? Yes. I see the hand in the back. Okay. So, if you want to be this, can you tell me what it is that you want to be? And let's start with, hey, why not you? Noah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Noah, tell me. What is happiness?
Like content with your life all the time.
Content with your life all the time.
Yeah.
Are you correct?
No.
Why not?
Because that was a bad definition.
You're just throwing something against the wall, see if it sticks,
Oh.
right?
Yeah, because I don't know. Sometimes I feel sad and I just want to be like.
Is it okay to be sad?
It's okay.
Can one be happy and sad?
At the same time?
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
Because they conflict. You can't. They conflict
Why?
with each other.
Why do they conflict?
You can be sad and happy at the same time.
Okay, tell me why.
I feel like some things you can
Don't
be
feel,
sad,
think.
we can't think of much.
Feelings are emotions, or perhaps you could say I feel hot and cold, but
Emotions are
feelings, right?
I
But
would say like
but you're thinking about it. You're not feeling about it.
So
Emotions are happy, sad, or I don't want to say happy. No, joyful, sadness, anger. Okay, those are emotions. Okay, despair. Those are emotions. Okay, you think about propositions, about definitions. You're defining something, so think about it. I'm just correcting language at this point, tightening it up.
Chemically, happiness is just serotonin, right?
Is it?
That's what psychology has told me is the chemical that.
Who told you this? Which psychologist told you this?
What's my professor's name?
Your professor told you this.
Yeah, the serotonin controls the happy chemical in your brain. Yeah.
Oh, then they misuse their word. They're misdefining happiness. You might want to.
They're not defining happiness. Serotonin is what controls the happiness of your brain.
Oh, serotonin. So if I give you a shot of serotonin, you're happy.
Not necessarily not right away, but serotonin, that's what.
So you're saying it's a sensation. Happiness is a sensation, a physiological sensation.
Yeah, and an example of happiness had at the same time is like.
So I can go kill somebody, take a shot of serotonin, and all of a sudden I'll start being, this is great.
That's not what I said. I said serotonin. I never said there's a shot of serotonin. Serotonin comes in once through pills. Like that's what depression is. Depression comes from the lack of serotonin. and that's the lack.
Depression is not sadness, so you know that, right?
It's not sadness, but it's the lack of happiness, like.
Is it?
Majority of the people that are depressed, if you're to ask somebody depressed, hey, are you happy? Chances are they're gonna say no,
Or they might have the wrong definition of happiness.
or they might have the wrong definition of depression.
Or both, but either way, we're trying to define happiness, and you're suggesting it is a chemical.
It's a feeling and
A feeling that's the result of a chemical.
Yeah.
A physiological sensation that is the result of a chemical.
Right, yeah. Like, if
Yeah.
something good happens in your life, like, it's something that you enjoy, that's when the serotonin, like, boosts up in your brain, that's when the chemical starts.
Yeah, that may be true that there's a sensation, but can you be happy and not have that?
I wasn't.
Well, that's because that's because you're assuming happiness is a sensation.
If happiness isn't a sensation, is it a mindset?
I'm asking you.
I'm asking.
We're trying to define it. Well, so part of the process here is not me doing it. I know the answer.
I know, I just asked, but like.
Yeah, so if I give you the answer, you memorize the answer,
Right.
and then you just learn what to think.
Oh, well, I'm not asking the definition.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. If I give you the answer, you memorize the answer, you spit the answer back to me, of course, long enough to pass a test, you forget it out the door. If you come up with the answer, you didn't learn what to think, you learned how to think. Okay? Keep in mind, knowledge is not just about memorizing facts. You are not smart because you have memorized enough facts. Did you catch that? Now, you've been brought up throughout school, and many people teach you facts, and you memorize them without saying, are these facts true? Are these real facts? Do they correspond to reality in the true sense, right? Remember epistemology? Did you do the work to discover these? Do you know how they came up with these facts, okay? And when you do the work, what you are doing is you're learning how to think. You're learning how to discover truth. You're learning how to define things, okay? Not just allowing me to come up and go, this is happiness. It's serotonin. And you go, okay, and you associate happiness with the feeling of, quote, contentment, as Noah said, or some kind of good sensation, some euphoria, okay? Is that happiness? You sit there and just killed 5 of your own children, drown them in a tub, and then all of a sudden you get some euphoric sensation. Is that happiness?
It could be for them.
No, it's a sensation of euphoria. Okay? What we want to know is the sensation of euphoria, happiness. Okay? Because do you want to be that way? Is that what you want? When I say everybody wants to be happy, you want to be euphoric, even in crazy, weird, would you call that happiness, that you have this euphoric sensation? Would you want to be euphoric after you just drowned 5 of your own children?
I mean, if you're psychotic, you could be.
I'm asking you, are you psychotic right now? No, it's a rational human. Would a rational human desire that? But would a rational human desire to be happy?
Yeah.
So they must be different things. It must be something different than euphoria.
It could be like different for different people.
Well, again, can height, can 5'6" be different for different people? Can 2 + 2 be different for different people? You could get different answers from different people, but the question is, are they right? Correct. Okay? And so when we talk about happiness, we want to know what this thing is that we take the word happiness and tag it. If I say yellow, right? I think we all have the same thing in common. Now, if you're colorblind, we would not say, well, color's relative. What we would say is something's wrong with your eyes. Okay? That the person's colorblind. The problem's not with the color. That color's not relative, but that something's screwed up with the person. All right? What do I mean when I say the word univocal? We all have one, right? Vocal, voice, or scenes. And when we're speaking univocally, we are all using the term the same way. We all have the same definition, right? Now, Thomas Jefferson said, all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, such as the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Not the pursuit of euphoria, okay? He had a different meaning, and if you do have that right, if you really do have that right to pursue happiness, we want to know what that right, we want to know what the word right is first, but then we also want to know what happiness is. Because you want to pursue what he's talking about. You don't just come up with, you know, if you're chasing a rabbit down the road, and what the heck is that person doing? Well, he's chasing happiness. Well, that's happy for me, that bunny. And you're chasing something else. No, we want the same thing, okay? Okay, so that we're speaking univocally, so that we understand each other. And if you want to be happy, we want to know what it is, because, and Aristotle's going to go on in book 1, as I want you guys to read, he's going to talk about archery. And he's going to say, if you're aiming at, you know, the wrong thing, you're not going to hit it, okay? If you're aiming at happiness, but if you want to hit happiness, but you're aiming over here, are you going to hit happiness? No, you're going to hit something else. As an old pastor friend of mine used to say, if you aim at nothing, you're guaranteed to hit it. Okay? It's kind of Aristotelian. So he suggests happiness is something you want for itself. Okay? That is, it's an instrumental good. It's not an instrumental good, it's an intrinsic good. It's the highest good, he'll say. You want a house so that you can put your stuff in. You want your money so you can buy your stuff. Those are instrumental goods. But there are things that are good for themselves. Masks, like I said, if they're good at all, it's at best instrumental. So what is happiness? Now, you've kind of heard me suggest it's not an emotion. And it's not a chemical sensation, right? A euphoric sensation, a physiological event in the brain. Might that occur with it? Sure, it might. But just because it is correlating
Correlation does not mean causation.
or identity. Correlation, even if it is causation, it doesn't mean it's identical. So correlation neither entails causation, nor does it entail identity. Just because you always have 3 sides with a triangle, it doesn't follow that a triangle is merely a plane or 3 planes. It is also triangular, right? It's triangular and trilateral. Okay. So, what is usually associated with happy people? Can you give me a list of some people that you might assume, or you don't even have to assume they're happy. Let's just say the culture at large presents them as happy, as people you want to be. Think about the light, man. When I was a kid, we were talking about rock bands when I got in here. And when I was a kid, holy moly, man, we worshipped these guys, unfortunately. We thought they were so cool. Man, I wanted to be like that. I still play music, right? And we all wanted to be a rock star. They made a video game called Rockstar. How many of you dreamed about being on stage and, good night, Houston, and all of a sudden, everybody's cheering you on. Y'all did it, right? Or give me somebody else. It doesn't have to be a musician. I was big into that. I was also big into sports. You're probably big into sports, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is happy? Or culture assumes
like
it's...
the culture, like who culture sees as happy, or they think? Like,
Yeah, we aspire to be them because they must be happy.
Probably like a Leonardo DiCaprio or somebody like that. Like
Who's that guy? Just kidding.
I don't know what to say. I don't know, people like that.
Is he happy?
Probably not.
What? Why do you say no? Because I'm challenging you.
I'll say
I mean, it might not, he may be,
No, I
but
got
we
you.
don't know, but
For
what
one,
is,
for one, he always has a lot of eyes on him, so you can't mess up or do anything.
so
mistakes.
so he has a lot of eyes on, but let's suggest that, but doesn't he want that? Isn't that part of being famous?
I mean, shoot, it's probably.
Do you wanna be famous?
I mean, no, not really.
No, not really.
I do not want to be famous. I
You want
money.
not to be
I
famous.
want money, yeah.
So you're just gonna go hide in somewhere. You want money.
Yeah, I want
Okay,
money.
he wants money. There we go. That's one of them. Leonardo DiCaprio has money. Is money happiness? Is wealth happiness?
No,
Can it buy happiness?
it can't buy happiness. You can buy, I would say like maybe like a quick feeling, like a happiness you think is happiness.
So you
You
can buy
a
some
car,
drugs.
You buy drugs. You buy drugs. You could buy a car, a
Women?
house. So it's like
Men, you buy men too. If you want. I mean, they're out there for sale.
All inclusivity.
You know, money buys you a lot of stuff, right?
My experiences.
By experiences, yeah, you can go to all sorts of different countries and, right? Cool, yeah, that all sounds fun. I like money. Money's fun. Is money happiness? And you would say no, because money is not that which
It's not
you.
intrinsic.
It's not intrinsic. You want it for something else. Tell me what you're gonna do with your money.
Help my family out.
You're gonna help your family out. So you're gonna get. What are you gonna do with them?
Put them in position so we can create wealth.
Oh, so you're gonna get more money. Okay, so you're gonna put them in.
More
So,
money.
so you're gonna use your instrumental good to get more instrumental good.
But I'm gonna also give back to, cause I'm from Philadelphia. I'm gonna build like playgrounds. I'm gonna build areas where kids can stay out of trouble.
Or they could deal drugs.
Shit, no, we're not doing that.
I'm
no.
joking, of course.
Yeah, we
They
can-
could do that, but you don't have control of that, do you?
That's what they want to do. Like, shit, it's not my choice.
Keep it PG, we got the camera rolling.
I got you. Yeah, just put people in better positions to have
do what?
opportunities to make better decisions.
What are they gonna do with their decisions?
Go to college,
In order to do what?
make money.
Again, we make money so we can go to school so that we can make money.
I mean, it makes it easier life. It helps.
Does it?
It does.
It does, it does. Okay, so can you be happy if you're living in the streets?
You could be.
Could you?
You could.
What does it mean to be happy then?
I mean, it's,
You got no money.
I would say it's a mindset.
You're starving, it's a mindset, okay, but what does that mean? You know, a lot of
It's a-
people throw these
Right,
terms
no,
out, it's a
I'm about to tell you.
mindset.
I'm about to tell you.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
It's a thought process. So you can have somebody who has $1 million and they're thinking, oh, I just want two. But you can have somebody out there, they're just happy to have a hamburger.
Those are examples, I don't want examples, I want the principle, the definition. It's like, what's a car? Well, you know, some guy could be driving down the street with his car going, I like this car. No, I don't wanna know that he has one, I wanna know what it is. So I wanna know
Is
what
it like-
happiness is.
Would you say like happiness is like, is it gratefulness? Like you're grateful for what you're like?
No, gratefulness is gratefulness, that's thankfulness. I have gratitude for that which I have. Okay, and you know, that may accompany happiness.
Mhm.
Okay, that these aren't, you know,
Right.
it's not like you're not circling the wagon, all right? And it's not like, the reason I asked you, let me tell you this, the reason I asked you if one could be happy if they were broke, by broke, I mean so broke, they're dying in the street, okay? Literally, they can't eat, they're dying because they are so broke. I would say no, they cannot be happy. A certain level of wealth is required, okay? That is a certain level of ability to feed yourself, and you don't need the greenbacks, you just need what the greenbacks give you. If you don't, you know, if you're feeding yourself and your family and your body can be healthy in that regard, then no, you wouldn't need the money because the money's only instrumental in getting that thing that preserves you. So if you're preserved, in a sense, my children are broke, but they're not starving and all that, you know, but we're providing that, okay? So if you provide for, I mean, but there is a bit of wealth that is required for one to be happy, okay? You can't, because if you're just breaking down, that'd be hard to be happy. Keep in mind, I am not talking about an emotion, okay? Because if you're broke and somebody gives you a shot of heroin, you're like, hey, life is good. You know, you're euphoric. You have a sensation of well-being, right? But are you actually being well? No, you are not, okay? All is not well. Okay, so that's, go ahead, you get your pen up. You're like, okay, go ahead. Even if you're not, I'm taking you anyway, go ahead. What you gotta say?
I have two definitions of happiness.
Please go for it, unless you got it offline and from the Aristotle quick notes, then I don't wanna hear it, cause then you'd steal my thunder.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the early church fathers would say that happiness is an enliftedness of the soul.
A what?
Enlightenment and lifting of the soul.
A lifting of the soul.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Sounds quite metaphorical.
You know when like you do something that is intrinsically bad, like your soul just feels heavy? It's the opposite of that.
So it's a feeling again.
I mean, a feeling of the soul.
Are you discussing joy? Keep in mind, emotions are joy, okay? Happiness is not joy. See, I'm trying to get you out of the mindset that the word happy is an emotion, okay? So if you say, so keep in mind that early church fathers, you know, they're using the same language we are. We're talking about the same thing. They're not necessarily wrong, but again, they're using very symbolic language, you know, just kind of metaphorical language, a lifting up of the soul, right? Okay, yeah, that's great. But what is that? What do we mean by that? I'm not going to disagree with them that it has to do with the soul. Okay, I'm certainly not going to do that. Okay, and trust me, you're not. Neither one of you are so far off. Even, I mean, you're probably really far off because I disagree wholeheartedly that it's one, a physiological emotion, and two, that it's a chemical reaction. I'm gonna push back on your psychology professor on that. But I think what they're talking about is the euphoric feeling of joy that accompanies joy. I think that's what they're talking about, not real happiness.
Is it the maintaining of the purity of the soul then? Could that be?
Yeah, but what does that mean?
I would like to find that as just being a good person, like maintaining the purity.
Yeah, you're not too far off. You're not too far off. Maintaining presupposes we are good to start with, but okay. But there's a good working start from that. I don't mind that. Okay, but let's push a little farther, and then we're going to start applying stuff like that. How's that? So if we go, wealth is not it, but wealth may be required. What about health?
Definitely.
Like, I'm big into health, man. I'm 50 years old. I run. I exercise. I do all sorts of stuff.
How
Okay.
do you feel? Does that make you happy?
It makes my joints hurt.
Yeah.
It makes my joints hurt.
Right.
But imagine
While
though.
you're doing it, it doesn't make you
Oh, I
happy.
feel. Do I feel happy? Again, you're
Right, that's a
assuming
feeling.
happiness
Right.
is a feeling.
Right.
Take that out and say happiness is not a feeling. It is not an emotion. Do I feel euphoric?
Right.
Yes, because I do get a shot of endorphins.
Right. So is what you're trying
I
to
get
at?
joy out of it.
No, my question is, so
Sometimes I
so
get great
everything,
pain
like,
out of
a
it.
feeling is temporary, is what you're saying. So what makes this like happiness like stay? Like, is that what you mean by it? Like happiness stays, and like you like anything like euphoric, it's a feeling, so it's temporary.
Well, it definitely comes and goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked the question: is can you be happy and sad at the same time? Because
Right.
you assume not you, but a lot of people assume that happiness is joy. And if you're sad, can you be joyful at the same time? It seems to be difficult to do, right? You're crying over the loss of a loved one, but you're feeling joyful. That would be odd, right? That's why I say, if we take happiness and say it is not a feeling, an emotive feeling, then you possibly could be happy and sad at the same time, because happiness is not an emotion. Okay? It's like, could you feel physical pain at one point and feel ice cold over here? Well, yeah, because it's two different things. Okay? Can you feel hot and non-hot? No.
What about icy hot?
That's, I don't know if that's real ice or real hot.
What about ice and salt? That hurts, that burns.
Yeah, okay, you can feel pain.
Yeah.
You can feel pain and you can feel pain, yeah. All right, but I'm saying, okay. So let's go with health. Can you be happy and not healthy? Let's imagine you're sick, you're in pain, you're dying.
I mean, I don't think anyone would be very happy while biting the
It
paper
wouldn't
knife.
be, you can feel joy during that time though, can't you?
Yes, but you just said happiness isn't a feeling, so you can feel.
That's right,
other
so
stuff
that's
while
what I'm
dying.
saying. Not just, yeah, now, it depends on how we, if we assume there's an assumption there, okay? But it's very difficult to live a happy life, okay, as Aristotle is going to define it. Keep in mind, this is having to do with Aristotle, not me. I'm not making this up. This is discussions from the ancients about the nature of this thing we call happiness, okay? And, yeah, go ahead, no.
Like, you know, some people will be like, I'm happy about this grade that I got, but I'm
They
sad.
are not content with the grade, right? They are disappointed, they are angry, those are feelings, right?
Oh, okay, that's a feeling too.
And they may use the word unhappy. See, we use the word happy as a synonym, and I even get caught up in it for joy. Unhappy for anger, right? But philosophically, when you're asking what did Thomas Jefferson mean when he said you have a right to pursue happiness, he didn't mean you have a right to pursue euphoric, sensations, did he? No. He meant something much richer than that. Okay? Much deeper philosophically. Okay, so happiness, is it health, wealth? What about pleasure? Pleasure's desired for something that, there we go, there's that euphoric feeling, right? Pleasure is that which is desired. I want pleasure for pleasure's sake, right? And that, why do you want chocolate? Because chocolate tastes good. It's pleasurable. Does anybody in here not like chocolate? Yeah, dysfunctional human. Just kidding. Me and ice cream. You cannot put it in the house. It's got to go. And by it got to go, it'll go right down my mouth into my tummy. So I can't have it. Okay, too much pleasure. Okay, I get nothing but pleasure from it, and then I jiggle for a week. So, yeah, especially at my age, I just look at ice cream like. Brr. But what doing drugs gives you pleasure. Are you happy? Is a drug addict happy? Trust me, druggies use drugs. Why? A lot of people go, they're depressed and they're self-medicating. Yes, they are. They're medicating by pleasuring themselves with drugs. Okay? So, those aren't happiness. What does Aristotle suggest happiness? Now, he's going to suggest you need wealth because you're dying. You're going to die in the streets if not. If you don't have health, it's the same situation, right? How can a healthy person an unhealthy person lead a happy life? You see by my language where we're talking about a life, not about a time or an instance. How can somebody who finds no pleasure in anything, have, happiness? Okay? Now, remember, we're not talking pleasure. We're not talking it being sensation. Although, they may be listening to the term. Necessary to a degree, but not sufficient. Not sufficient. You may need money, some amount of money, to have happiness, but it's not sufficient. You give a man all the money in the world and still the man not be happy. And a man can have less than all the money in the world and be happy. So money, though it may be necessary to some degree, money can get in the way of happiness, and you know that, right? And you were saying, sometimes fame. They said honors. When you read this, they're going to say, some of the people are going to say honors, and fame. Right?
Wait, so have you seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness?
Yes.
Well, so really the title doesn't make sense, does it?
No, because again, he has a right to pursue happiness, and he does. But I love the movie for one reason. Because the man is poor, he's in really hard times, his wife is going to leave him, he's homeless, right? With his son, scary. You can't be happy there. That's a miserable life. Okay, and I don't mean emotionally miserable. It's a miserable life. It's not a happy life. Okay, what does it take he does need to succeed to some degree to be able to feed his son, keep his son, right? Okay, good. He had a great attitude in that movie, and I love one thing he said. Guy pulls up in a Ferrari, and guy says, Will Smith says to the guy, "You jerk, you rich guy, I hate you, you took from the poor, you owe," no wait, that's not what he said, did he?
He said, how did you get it, bro?
He said, "What do you do and how do you do it?"
Mhm.
That's the best line ever. He didn't curse the man for having more than him. He asked him, "What did you do and how do I do it so I can get the same results?" Rather than curse a man for something he didn't have, he wanted to know what that guy did. There are billionaires out there, and I could curse them, those rich jerks who are stealing. No, they're not stealing. They've got a way to make money, and if you replicate what they do, you will get the same results, just like criminals. You want to know how to fail? Go to jail and ask them what they did. You want to know what to succeed? Go find successful people and ask what they did, right? If you want happiness, you better do the same. And the question is, what do you do to be happy? And so Aristotle, he's just going through and he's going, is it health, wealth, pleasure, right? Honors. And he shows that each one of these have a problem with them. What is the problem with being famous and relying on fame for your happiness?
I feel like it would be overwhelming to be famous. Like his example, like Leonardo DiCaprio.
It could be overwhelming in one sense, but then people could also withhold that. And your happiness would be dependent on them.
Alright. It's temporary.
Okay? Again, comes and goes. Happiness is going to be a state, he's going to say. A state of the soul, right? It's a status of the soul in accord with perfect reason, he says. Now, I'm giving you the answer here, even though, because we were running out of time. That's why, because we got 4 minutes left. And I want you to notice that, then you go, well, that may make sense. It's a status of the soul in accord with perfect reason. Part of this is that he's going to get to the sense where it requires virtue. So I would ask you, can an evil person be happy? And the answer is no. Can the evil person feel euphoria? Yes. Can the evil person feel joy? Yes. Ted Bundy killed 26 women at least and felt pleasure because that's what he did it for, to gratify his sexual desires. All the famous serial killers were doing that, those great evil deeds, in order to be pleasured, to experience it. Moreover, there are people who have great wealth, and they are not happy. I can name several rock stars who had fame. Chris Cornell, boom, kills himself. Why? I don't know. He was depressed, right? But yeah, he may have been feeling despair, blah, blah, blah. He had fame. Fame must not be happiness. A lot of people seek fame. If I was only famous, if people only loved me, I'd love myself, right? Clearly, he's not reasonable after all these people have loved him, practically adored him and worshiped him at the concerts. He's a great singer, but then he kills himself. Robin Williams does the same, kills himself. Great fame, lots of money. Neither money nor fame gave them happiness. Okay? So Aristotle's going to go through and he's going to knock these down. He's going to say it's a status of the soul in accord with perfect reason. And he's going to go on to say that this requires virtue. What is virtue? Remember, part of our task in philosophy is to define that which is good. What does it mean to be virtue? To do virtuous things? Or do you do virtuous things because you're good? Remember the question from Plato? Are people born virtuous? Or is it something one can gain, one can become? So, if you want to be happy, you have to be virtuous, he's going to say. Now, there's a lot more, by the way, in this first book that you will be quizzed on. You got to read the first book, okay? And I've already assigned the second book, so start reading book 1 and 2. And it's not light reading. This isn't dialogues like the Plato, okay? It's a lot heavier than that. It's great reading, and it will get you to be able to think better, okay? It's like lifting weights for the brain, okay? It's mental powerlifting. So, we got 5 minutes. Look, I haven't done a lot of reading from the text today because I wanted to ask you the questions. I want you to read, and you're going to come back to me on this, all right? But since we got 5 minutes, let's talk about virtue. Now let's just ask you the question, what is virtue? Nobody knows. Are there any virtuous people in here? No? You're a bunch of vicious people? Let me give you a couple of definitions here. Not to define virtue, but I want to give you 2 words at the end of the spectrum. You got virtue on one end, we'll call that the good part, and we got vice on the other end. That's the bad part. You know, you got vice in the police, they go out and they go bust people, you know, they got vice, okay? And if you practice vice, you are vicious, okay? And that is not necessarily, you can be vicious and it doesn't mean you're mean. It does not indicate that you are mean to people. You can be very congenial to people, very friendly to people, but still be a vicious person. Why do I mean that? Well, I mean, you can be the nicest drug dealer on earth, but drug dealing is a vicious act because it's something you're doing that's promoting vice, okay? You could be a porn addict, okay? And very congenial to people, but you are practicing, you know, pornography, which is a vicious act, which is not virtuous, okay? How many of you have heard of the 7 deadly sins? 1 person, 2 person, 3 people, 4 people. Or the 7 cardinal virtues. You've never heard of the virtues. Yeah, okay, the virtues are actually on the other end of the spectrum. You hear the vices, right? Those are the bad ones, the 7 deadly sins. Now, in the medieval age times, they got a hold of Aristotle. Okay, the Catholic Church started using Aristotle to help categorize things. And one of the things they did was they categorized virtues and vice, sin and virtue, okay? And so they did marvelous work on defining sin and types of sin, and it is mind-boggling how deep of thought, you know, it is. So what are the 7 deadly sins, or 7 vices, we could call them? We could say Pusagal. It's an acronym. Pride, envy, P-E, right? Pride, envy, wrath, P-E-W. Soggle, sloth. Gluttony. I think avarice and lust. Okay? Now it goes from the worst to the least. Now lust is at the bottom, but if you're a Baptist, we throw it right back on top, okay? You know, why is pride the worst? It seems to be that pride has that sense of self that is elevated above that which it should be. Now, if that's a vice, pride, there is a corresponding virtue, okay? What would the corresponding virtue of pride be? Humility, right. Now, we'll talk about how Aristotle determines what these virtues are, okay? Talk about the golden mean. Not today because we are out of time, but you can see that there are 7 sins or 7 vices, and you want to be the opposite. You want to have the virtues of that. So, for example, you know, well, back in the ancients, cowardice would have been a vice, right? It still is. What would be a virtue? Bravery. Okay? All right. We're going to leave it at that. But the end result is if you want to be happy, happy is something that is desired for itself. But if you want to be happy, one must be virtuous. So if you're a vicious person, and that doesn't mean mean, although being mean is a vice, okay? Being a jerk is a vice, okay? If you want to be happy, practice virtue. We'll leave it at that. If I'd never said anything to you more important, if you want to be happy, be virtuous. And virtue is something that you may not want to be. Because we're all tempted to vice, right? Satan's going to tempt us to do the wrong thing. He never tempts us to do the right thing. Okay?
So the definition of virtue is,
We'll talk about that.
okay.
We'll talk about that. Because there are virtues and we want to know what those are. All right. I want you to read chapters 1 and 2. Or not chapters, book 1 and 2 of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. And see.